Right now we're looking at the front-end interface for factshift.com. This is the localhost version because I'm doing some testing, some reconfiguration, refactoring, trying to get the code to be more performant and easier to hand off to another developer. There are a few things just from the start that I don't love about this. One of them is how many errors I know that I'm going to run into if I try to refactor this with users. So if there are people who are using this very nuanced application, and I say nuanced because there are a lot of specific rules for how you can interact with this space that aren't documented. The idea is that you could take a screenshot of this page after doing some specific commands and then send that list of instructions to someone else and they can verify that you've gone through this process yourself. If you were a computer, or I guess an artificially intelligent being, you wouldn't necessarily have the groundedness in real experience to be able to know how your actions translate into something that a real human would do. My prediction for the future of UI design is that everything's going to subtly become kind of like a CAPTCHA, where we're testing to see if this behavior that you're doing is relatively consistent with what a human that we would expect would be doing. And on an application basis, there are a few different complexities for how to do this to be in line with the culture of whatever application you're building. So in this example, the things that I'm doing could be done by anything, just dragging nodes around a screen. But the ways that I intend to use this, like being able to share a link, I can change the title to anything. And that's misleading because the hash for something else doesn't align with what we're seeing here. So if I were to send somebody a screenshot of this, I would be doing it with the assumption that they either do or don't know that I can just change the title. But if you had intimate knowledge of the source code and couldn't ignore how intimate your knowledge of the source code was, it'd be very difficult for you to tease out the natural behaviors from something that just coincidentally is a behavior of the application. So I don't really mind that this code is open source right now for the sake of what it's going to be for. But I do mind that I can't really communicate well about the features with another developer. Because if I want them to be able to modify this code to add features or to change the styling, to do some device-specific tweaks, and then eventually if I want to monetize this or turn this into a white-labeled application, I want to be able to direct people towards what they should be focused on. And I have this polyzygotic code base that I use for lore.land and the other ones, boon, bane, bone, bonk, and honk.land. And it has more of the structure that I would want to go towards. There are Cypress tests. There are public assets, source folder with some elements of GraphQL generated from a shared backend, and then specific segments of behavior that dictate how you can interact with these applications. And that's very different than this. It also uses TypeScript, which I really appreciate. Just navigating some of the things here, I know that there are mistakes that I'm going to run into. For example, with D3, the library that this is primarily based on, there is a structure to the objects that we see, and I've just kind of been using those as plain old JavaScript objects. But that's not necessarily going to be the most sustainable thing, because I wouldn't know how to share that data with someone else meaningfully. All of the keys that I have on my object might be very different than all of the keys that they have on theirs. So just interacting with some of these concepts, there isn't a singular place where I'm making that decision all over the code base. What else? Profiling is also kind of weird because a lot of the functions aren't named per se, and I don't have a way of comparing the effects of them across time. So that is something that I would want to change as well. I think those are the main things that I want to talk about. I've just been refactoring the things that I notice are annoying to me, like having a lot of unrelated files in the same, or a lot of unrelated functions in the same file, or a lot of um, ambiguity in the object names, variable names. There's some inefficient functions as well that are just doing ridiculous things like looping over arrays multiple times. But yeah, this is a constant work in progress. I prefer to think of code bases as living, and when we have the ability to do something like map out all of the features and give them names, like I do here. Those are the features. Core identities, that's it. So here I have all of the features listed out. Comment permalinks, comment pages, etc.